Welcome to the Rugby Oaks podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show with your hosts, Matt and George.
George, we're back, season 2. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm better now that I can see your lovely face. It's been so long. But yeah, we've recovered from the World Cup and we are now fully into a new season of rugby, and it's bloody glorious.
Absolutely. I mean, the World Cup feels like a long, long time ago. I aged quite a bit in the process as we talked about ad nauseum. But we're into European rugby right now, okay? And it was the Challenge Cup starting this weekend. Sharks bounce back against Onyx pretty gloriously, actually. It's been a tough season for them in the URC. We know that. New coach, really good players, but not being able to do the business. So they were desperate to get back to winning ways against Onyx this weekend. They're at home. They're in front of the Durban crowd. And they did the job. They scored 38 points.
Yeah, they absolutely did the job. They needed to bounce back because it was getting a bit worrying, especially for a lot of South African Springbok rugby supporters when you see a star-studded team. I know they're missing a couple due to injury, like Bongi and Vincent, but you think, oh gosh, this is not looking good. You try to, in a way, you compare it to like a Saracens, because at one point Saracens had like 8 England starters, and they did really well. Now they haven't gelled in that way, so to speak. However, like you just said, they bounced back. Ox, my man, and
2 tries for the loose end. Unbelievable.
Score tries. No.
Well, they
score tries.
No, they don't. There was that image that came out on social media the last couple of weeks of a fan handing him a cake as the bus came past, so he picks it up. He's like, "Wait, look, Ox. He's been around a while, actually. Okay, time of the Cheetahs, those bullocking runs that he used to make was absolutely unbelievable. Moved on to the Sharks, and actually, dare I say it, one of the few Sharks who've really progressed since moving there. Sorry, Sharkies, but since moving there, he's really become one of the best looseheads in the world. He went on the Lions tour, and he started the Lions tour, and he dominated that at scrum time. He then went to the World Cup, and he played the same role as Steven Kitsoff did in 2019, coming on, and your job is to destroy, pound, and he did it. And the world is now shuddering at the thought of the Ox coming on with 30, 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, he's become a bit of an icon around the world, because I think everyone's now slapping the cake on the plates and demolishing it because they all want to win a scrum. You're right, he has progressed, and he is one of the few who's progressed. And we compare him to Steven Kitsoff? Who's better now?
We've got to have a conversation of who's the best loosehead in the world, and I can tell you one thing: it ain't no one who's not wearing a green and gold shirt. Let's be honest, it's Kitsy or it's Ox. George, on the spot, who is it right now? Who do you start? Actually, no, because the starting isn't what makes you the best in the world. Who is the best in the world?
I'm gonna say, due to form, Ox.
Oh, sorry, Kitsy.
I love Kitsy. Plum, I love you, but I think Ox.
Ox is one of the best scrummages in the world, but the spicy Plum will always have my heart. He's been there, he's done it for 11 years in a row. Ox, maybe 6 or 7, just really cracking onto the Springboks. I would say, and this is going to hurt as an absolute Plum fan, Ox will become a better Springbok. But right now, I'm going with Kitsy. Anyway, enough about my Stormers bias. And let's move on to the next Challenge Cup game that we had the pleasure or potentially displeasure of watching. It was the Lions versus Montpellier. Montpellier, bottom of the top 14, fighting relegation. This is a team that 2-3 years ago won the top 14 with the likes of Serfontein, with the likes of Kobus Reinach, with a star-studded team in a very competitive French league. And the Lions, let's be honest, having a pretty blinding season for a low budget. That's no offense. It's a compliment for a low budget team.
Yeah, that's true. the Lions have surprised people, and it's great because the Lions were a powerhouse not very, very long ago, not in a far too distant past. They were a powerhouse, and they've got players like Nahamba putting on the 10 jersey and slotting kicks and stuff. I mean, he's coming into.
He's one of the few Sharks who have progressed.
Burn.
Sorry,
but the Lions have. Well, not sorry. The Lions have played a hell of a well, and they had a crap game yesterday, and they only put up 3 points.
And that first half, George, that first half was disgraceful to watch. It was 0-0 until like 35 minutes. It was back and forth. It was pretty tragic over in France. I think probably if that was, well, let's put it this way. If that was in South Africa, the Lions would dominate as they always do. With Montpellier looking for form, it really wasn't the spectacle that we were all after. And it was a pity the Lions couldn't get a bonus point away from home because they're on the top end of that Challenge Cup table in their pool.
Yeah, and again, I'll just reiterate how well they're playing. I mean, they beat the Sharks by 2 points. Was it at the Shark Tank? I don't even know if it's called the Shark Tank anymore. And they've put up some big points on some I say foreign teams, European teams. So they're looking good. They just had a bad day at the office. It must have been bloody cold in France. Yeah. So that's a shock to the system when you've had a nice toasty summer in Joburg.
Yeah.
So I feel for them. They will bounce back.
Of course they will bounce back. Of course they will. And I think, they're one of those teams that you'd really love to make a good run at the competition. Let's be honest, they're not going to win the URC. Look, they're not going to win the URC. We're not going to make any bones about that. However, they've got an opportunity here in a competition where there'll be a lot of teams who are in that, who are challenging for the top ends of their leagues. Okay, and this is taking nothing against Lions, but there might be an opportunity to slip into playing against maybe teams who are slightly off the ball in that competition, slightly not focusing on it. And what a wonderful competition. It's something that when we played Super Rugby, I was shouting for, was a second tier competition where you give teams who are maybe don't have the budget or aren't progressing quite as nicely the opportunity to win some silverware, the opportunity to create champions, to create a winning culture. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity for the Lions right now. It is for the Sharks as well, but the Sharks we expect to do better. Okay, so for the Sharks to win that would be okay, great, move on to the next one. For the Lions to win that would be absolutely smashing.
It would be epic. Yeah, it would be epic if they did that. And I actually hope they do. I want the Sharks to do well because it's filled with box, but they need to wake up. And I'm showing my bias again against the Sharks. We're going to stop bashing on the Sharks. We like the Sharks.
We love the Sharks. The Sharks have a lot of our Springboks. Durban is a lovely place to go visit in the summer. And look, jokes aside, a strong Sharks is a strong Springboks. And there's problems there. Plumtree's now gone back to New Zealand for a couple of weeks to have a bit of a holiday. His family aren't in South Africa. I think that's probably a massive problem. Look, if he was winning, no one would be talking about it. He's not winning. Yeah. Is that a problem where he's struggling a little bit mentally? 8 losses on the trot, pretty much. He's hopefully going to come back refreshed, new mindset. He said already the Sharkies need to pull their socks up. There's going to be a couple of people who aren't going to have their contracts renewed. But I think they'll look very different in years to come, and I back Plumtree to get the business done.
Yeah, he's a good coach. He's a great coach.
He's a proven
experience. Yeah.
And he loves the Sharks. He's a proper Sharks man. Yeah. For a Kiwi, he's a proper Sharks man. But look, George, we'll move on to the pinnacle of European rugby, the Investec Champions Cup. And how about those Bulls?
The Bulls, Jake White. Well, maybe this is weighing up. He left Montpellier and they're going to Poopy. Well, they're not going to Poopy, but they're bottom of the log. He's joined the Bulls. Bulls have had a tough run because they lost 7 times in a row now to the Stormers. Anyway, we move on. But they're beating almost everyone else. And they go over to where they go
Bristol?
To? Bristol Bears. Yeah, sorry. Blanked there for a sec. But they took not the starting team. Quite a few Boks not playing. And they dominated.
Listen, I opened Instagram on Friday and I saw Kane and Moody in bloody Indonesia. Okay,
Yeah, I saw
I thought the game's in Bristol, brother. You caught the wrong flight. But there's been a lot. There's been a lot of talk about the Springbok rest period, and Jake White's obviously taken this time to rest his box. He's gone. I think similar to what the Stormers did, and it didn't work out early in the season. He's gone. The chances of winning abroad are probably 10 to 15% lower than winning on a neutral ground or winning in South Africa, even away from home. So do you send your box, wear them out with travel, and still come back with maybe a losing bonus point, or do you roll the dice and put a really exciting team out there and go challenge these youngsters to go and put a performance in? He's done it.
Yeah,
He's dominated a good English team, and in the cold of Bristol.
yeah. I mean, I know Bristol's lost a few biggish names, but they've still got big names in the team, and they're not struggling in the English league. They're in the Premiership. They're doing all right. But yeah, Bulls, they've got a good squad going there. There's the squad that Jake White's put together. He's got something. He's got some magic potion, but they're playing well, except when they play the Stormers.
Yeah, look, the Bears are. I'm just looking now. They're eighth in the English Premiership. Which, look, there's only 10 teams, but the difference is they're on 25 points. The top team is on 39 points, whereas the team below them is 17, and then below them 4. So while they are eighth, they're in the position where they could end up third or fourth, or maybe fifth. They're having a probably mediocre year, but you'd expect them to win.
Yeah, you would have expected them to win, especially playing at home. And the Bulls fielding a B plus team, or an A plus team, not their starting team. So well played to the Bulls. It's exciting to see. It's very good for South African rugby as well, because like you said, strong Sharks is a strong box team. A strong Bull, strong Buller is.
You cannot have a strong South African team in the modern era without a strong Bulls. And I must say, I'm the biggest Stormers fan in the world. I love the Bulls, and not in a way that I support them, but I just love them because they are the Bulls, and I fucking love them, and I can't help myself. I love Jake White. I love all of them. But a position I just want to talk to you about at the Bulls at the moment is number 8. Okay, we've got 2 players, young players at number 8 for the Bulls, who are having some barnstorming seasons. Cameron Hanekom, we've talked about, has had a good couple of matches. And this young lad that played yesterday, obviously played a couple of weeks ago in the Champions Cup. That little pop from the try line, from the sideline, out to help them score the try. Unbelievable player.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think we are very lucky. So I'm going to go a little bit away from the Bulls, but we've got those 2 guys at the Bulls. Then we've just obviously lost Dwayne, so we're down 1. We've got Evan Roos, Dayimani. There's 8 coming. I think the Sharks might have some young talent, but that's exciting, and it's obviously not the normal like bullish 8 that we're used to. Like, you've got a Jasper Visser playing in Leicester, smashing through people. People are terrified of him when you see his toothless wonder running at you. But then you've got these dynamic runners with offloading and power. It's exciting. It's exciting to see.
It is exciting to watch because we're seeing the evolution of the position in South Africa. Other teams have done it. Your Artie Surveyors, throughout the world, other teams have done it. And actually, we've done it as well a little bit with Kwagga Smith. But these are Kwagga Smiths, I was about to say on steroids, but these are Kwagga Smiths with an extra foot, which anyone who's ever doubted Kwagga, who should never doubt Kwagga now after that World Cup, has said he's too small. That was the only criticism. Now we've got players that are big, that are fast, that are dynamic, and absolutely beautiful. And I cannot wait to see what the next 4-year cycle brings, because Rassie will use those players, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Yes. On to the Stormers. Stormers last night, a little squeaky bum time against the Sale Sharks. We made it difficult for ourselves. Look, before we get into the Stormers game, you might have seen on my socials, I spent a bit of time with the Stormers in December. Went to a couple of their training sessions. Got on the field, a lot of selfies during the Bulls game. Met background staff. And one thing I can say about this team is their DNA for flair, for excitement, for their when you watch their training and how they celebrate offloads, pop passes, breakout runs. It's a different. They are playing rugby how they want to play rugby, and I've never seen a group of players or a team dynamic that everyone is so happy, everyone just adores being there, everyone is challenging each other to the absolute max. And one of the wonderful things is you sat on the sideline, and every single player that walked past you came and introduced themselves, shook your hand, said thank you for coming to watch, how you doing, took the time. Every single player, whether they were World Cup winners, whether they were 18, 19-year-olds. And I think that's something that Dobbo instills, that we play for Cape Town. The guys come out and they are playing. And you see that with, even when we're not playing our best rugby, the wins that we're able to get, whether it's last night where we should have won or the grindouts against the Bulls and things like that, where these guys, when they're at home, they're playing for a different cause. They're playing to make Cape Town smile, as Dobbo has always said. Mm-hmm. And last night we probably weren't smiling in the last 20 minutes. But if you take a couple of, let's be honest, brain farts away, your Zas, it happens. That breakout by their number 5, Hill, that just had 20 meters in front of them to run and score. You take out those mistakes, and it's a convincing win. But the beauty of watching how we play is we're scoring tries from anywhere on the pitch. We're not kicking the ball away. And it's something that the South African public have begged for years. Mm-hmm. And it's something the Stormers do incredibly well.
Yeah, there's something in the water. Also, the reason they're so happy, let's be honest, they live in Cape Town. It's beautiful. I've just had a friend who's a shark. He was in Cape Town now for 3 weeks. Said he'd move there tomorrow. So it says a lot. So
please don't come.
The Storm. The Stormers. They look brilliant at times, and then there's, like you said, those moments of just brain farts, but they are so exciting to watch. The breakaways, Dayimani had that 90 or 80 meter breakaway.
Unbelievable.
I know his pass didn't go to the right person. However, it could have 50-50. And
it was a 50-50. The person was there. They were in the 22. Go for it. And, he also did the complete opposite of that, where he got an intercept, ran back, and then intercepted it again. Almost carbon copy of that one before. Dayimani, he's got to get the opportunity to be in the Bok setup. Now, we had a discussion last night where he may not be the best fit for the box at number 8, but he's got to be injected into that setup, allowed to express himself in that setup and see whether we can create a position for him. In my opinion, that's the amount of quality we have in South Africa at the moment in that squad. You now have the luxury of having a little play around to see if we can make things work. You get him in the squad, you start him against Portugal. I mean, look, it's not a game that we're going to lose. Get him in the environment, see if he sinks or swims. Rassie is a very big, personality guy. He picks on personality as well as skill. And I think he needs the opportunity to prove that he has the personality and the skill to be part of that box setup.
Yeah. There was moments of him yesterday where, with that running and the covering and stuff, only the defensive side, where he reminded me a bit of Courtney Laws. Courtney Laws is playing incredibly well for Northampton Saints now, and he's always within a few meters of a.
He's a hell of a player.
Yeah. So he reminded me at times when he's just chasing, and it's a good person to be compared to because he's had a illustrious international career. But yeah, he is very exciting, and he adds all that extra excitement to the Stormers, and I love it.
You know what he is, and he is to number 8s or loose forward. He does play number 7 when Evan Roos is back. I'm not sure that's his best position, but he is to number 8s as Manie Libbok is to number 10s. Okay, now bear with me. So Manie Libbok, you could look at him and say maybe he's not the best fit, maybe he isn't the best 10, but he creates magic time and time again. And that magic and how often he creates it is worth more than maybe a slightly more settled 10 at times. Now, Mani has developed a lot since then, and I think the maturity of being a Springbok has helped settle his game plan down, and be more of a general as well. And this is said with nothing but love for Mani Libbok, who I absolutely adore. But Dayimani is that. He brings... Could you have an Evan Roos that is going to be your, pound? He's going to get the yards, and he's got pace, and he might get an offload here and there, and it's going to be a solid game as long as he keeps his head. Or could you have a Dayimani who just has... Hachiva has games like this, and they're becoming more and more regular, where he is the guy. He is the only focus. And if you look in the last 3 seasons, how many player of the match performances he has between URC and Champions Cup, I mean, I don't have it to hand, but it's got to be a handful, at least, which is incredible.
Yeah, it is. I think in my playing days, I got 1 player of the match.
Well,
so, yeah. I was
in my playing days, I didn't get on the field.
but you're talking about Mani. Mani had those moments. He had one brain fart. One brain fart moment. And missed it, like 2 kicks, I think, where he hit the pole or whatever. However, he had absolute Mani moments of magic. Ooh, that's a bit of wordplay. He, the breakaway, the pace the guy has is insane.
Pace and vision.
So it's very exciting, and I'm so happy he plays for the Stormers. His move to the Stormers, I think, has reinvigorated his... Well, no, I know, has reinvigorated his career.
It's the Dobbo effect, and Dobbo's going to do the same with Similani, who we've just signed. A lot of things have been said about his defensive tactics, and it's a shame because, when he played for a team like the Lions at top form, and his, attack was the best form of defense, as probably is slightly less with the Stormers, but we focus on attack that much, and you can coach defense. Okay, you can coach defense. You can become a better defensive player. Can you become a player with better vision on attack? I don't know. Is that a ceiling? It's hard to coach just incredible talent, right? Defense, you can teach structures, and you can maybe improve him 5-10%. If you don't have the vision for attack, you're not going to get a superstar. And I think Similani will come. He'll have the same kind of trajectory at the Stormers, and will win the Champions Cup in the URC. End of story.
I bloody hope so.
I don't know so. But
it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, and we've got another round of fixtures next week. Of course, sorry, we did forget one today. Obviously, we haven't recorded is the Cheetahs. The Cheetahs will be playing however you say it, in Amsterdam, which is their home. The Dutchies will feel quite at home there, I'm sure. It is a sold-out crowd, and I think that'll be a great game in the Challenge Cup for them as well. Hopefully they'll get the win. George, just very quickly, before we move on to what we're doing next weekend, let's have a chat about... I mean, make no bones about it, the European Challenge Cup and the Champions Cup has failed to probably ignite the South African audiences as quickly as we hoped. But you look at the Stormers game yesterday, plus 20,000 people in the stands. It actually looked quite full. It looked like a vibe. We're getting a bit of criticism, empty stadiums, empty this. Like, there's always that thing of when you have a 50,000-seater stadium and you put 15,000 people in it, you're going to look empty. But when you have a 15,000-seater stadium in Europe and you sell it out, you're going to look full, okay? But also, is it too much to expect a South African public who, a lot of them are still hung up on Super Rugby, to adopt 2 new competitions? And let's be honest, they've adopted the URC perfectly.
Yeah, I personally don't think it's too much. I think you've hit the nail on the head, excuse me, in terms of capacities of stadiums. You can go to Saracens, who's one of the best teams England's ever had, and they've only got like a 10 to 15,000 seater stadium. So of course you're going to fill it every bloody week. And I've seen it empty. Not empty, but I've seen it not full. You've got some stadiums with 5,000 seats in Europe. So the Europeans can chirp all they want, but South Africans have got a hunger for rugby. And maybe it's ticket prices, but I think like in Cape Town, I think tickets are pretty decent. I'm not sure. I think it's like between 50 and 100 rand. think.
Yeah, look,
Um,
I think as well, you've got to have a South African public to come out, to a rugby match, which, particularly if you're in Joburg, is a life or death situation these days.
yeah,
But to come out to a rugby match, to create the vibe, you've got to know who your opposition are as well, and you've got to care about that opposition. And I think the
yeah,
education of European rugby in South Africa will slowly rise. The URC, we had that smashing win first year by the Stormers, Bull Stormers final. It immediately went into South African rugby folklore, bang, drop, loaded, done.
hmm
But the Champions Cup, we need to see real success. We need to see real value put on it by the coaching staff. And I don't know how we do that when we send second teams overseas, because we have to cope with the travel. We have to cope with the URC scheduling. But I think it's something that will grow over the next couple of years. And to show Sale Sharks, who are not champions, who are not a particularly top draw team, who did, they came second in the Premiership last year, but they're not a Saracens, they're not a Leicester Tigers. And to put 20 plus thousand people in the stadium is showing that marked progression. I can't talk for other clubs because Lions are really having a problem with their stadiums at the moment. And I think Loftus, that's an 80,000 seater, 70 something thousand seater stadium. That's hard to fill at the best of times. And actually, in fairness to the Sharks, they usually get at least kind of 15,000 people through the turnstiles because the Oaks love the Sharks. And the Cheetahs, there's a debate of whether, the Stormers do it well, where every now and again they pop down to Stellenbosch to play in the Donny Craven, which is I guess a 10 to 12,000 seater stadium, maybe less. But do you do you open a huge stadium with all those costs, or do you move to a smaller stadium that has the ability to create a great atmosphere, to sell out, to give people in other parts of the city or the country or the province an opportunity to see the rugby, to grow the support? And I think that's something that particularly the Lions need to look at.
Yeah, actually, it's not a bad idea. If you look at like Harlequins, they play at the Stoop next to Twickenham. So they don't play. I mean, they wouldn't fill Twickenham Stadium every weekend.
Well, ironically, they did the other week. There's 70,000 against Bath or someone other. But that's once a season. That's like their big thing, right? The rest of the time, they play at the Stoop, which I think is 20,000.
Yeah, you see, so we could dance, but the reason we've got all these big stadiums is because we should be hosting World Cups. No, we've...
So my argument isn't to change that for the big games, but, a couple of times, like when we played Zebra and we went to Zebra, or however you pronounce it, and we went to Donny Craven, you've taken what might have been a 10,000 people crowd in Cape Town, and you've sold out, probably through students, probably through whatever, an opportunity to play at the Donny Craven Stadium. I think that's fantastic, and the vibe there, people enjoy that vibe a lot more than enjoying a vibe with a guaranteed win in the Cape Town Stadium, with all respect to Zebra. One last thing, George, before we sign off, we've got a big weekend coming up next weekend. Let's quickly go through what the games are. We've got Bulls, 1 p.m. against Bordeaux in Pretoria. It's going to be a hell of a game. We've got the Stormers versus Stade Francais in Paris at 5:30. Challenge Cup, we got Onyx versus Cheetahs. So Cheetahs going to play the team that just lost to the Sharks. Let's have a quick look when the Lions are playing Ospreys at home, so that'll be great for them. And I guess the Sharks must be on the Friday. I can't quite see it there, but I'm sure they will... Maybe they're having a week's break. I can't see the results. Apologies for that. But one of the big things that people need to know, the Rugby Oaks podcast is going on tour. We're going to Paris. One night in Paris, Stormers in Paris, whatever you want to call it. We're going for 24 hours. George and I are going to watch 2 games. We're going first to watch Sia playing for Racing versus Cardiff Rugby. We're going to be in our fake Racing shirts. We've got some stripy shirts to wear. We're going to be partying. And then we're crossing town to watch the Stormers versus Start. And it's going to be an insane weekend of rugby. We're going to be producing content throughout the time. Follow us on our stories. Check us out on Instagram at TryTimeGeorge, at SA Rugby Oak. And join in the fun, because it's going to be rugby, and it's going to be epic.
I can't bloody wait. It's going to be so exciting. It's going to be cold. But that's what puffer jackets are for, and maybe some French red wine.
French wine, puffer jackets, brasseries, food brasseries. It's going to be incredible. Lots of rugby, 2 games in a row. Follow us, a lot of beer. Not only follow us on that, follow us on Instagram. Hit us up on YouTube, where you can watch all of our episodes. You can go back to relive the glory of the Rugby World Cup at the Rugby Oaks podcast. And guys, get involved. Send us some notes. Send us some stories of your times in the Champions Cup this year. Have you been to any games? Are there any awesome stories? We might have to bring back one of our old segments that oh, Rugby, you nasty, if we get some particularly nasty stories. But thank you for joining us. George, from me, from you, goodbye.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers, Matt. See you next week.
We'll see you in Paris. Bye.